November, obviously, yes, have blown out onto the road. We'll just run through the sequence. Oh, yeah, that's obviously on the North Kojonup Road. It's pretty self-explanatory. This was the first case that I found. I was actually fixing the fence. I proceeded. That's correct. I was fixing the fence and I did run a test on this. I fenced it actually in with the hope of being able to contain it and remove it off the property with the seed and some of the soil. That's why it's fenced at that point. In the distance there is where the GM crop originated. And of course we're approximately 3/4 of a K inside the boundary. This photo here, this plant was eaten by sheep, was originally just inside the fence. This marks on the eastern side the distance where it furthest travelled that we found. Again, it's, if I get this right, it's 1.2 Ks to the crop, in onto the boundary here on my eastern side. And in this case here, looking across to the northwest, it's approximately 2.5 Ks it had spread across there, and this stuff was scattered throughout this whole area. It's over behind that bush on the next road. From the point furthest back there, back to the boundary of the particular crop involved, was 1.5 Ks. It's an area of 188 hectares directly contaminated, but because it's gone across all those paddocks and the fact that it was stocked and sheep were eating it, I lost certification on the 325 hectares. This is just various photos now taking in the various paddocks. Obviously just there's one there, one there, one there. Obviously it's hard to put in, whoops, just go back to that. It's just hard to get it clearly in a photo, of course, with 3 plants there, 3 plants there.
Yeah, you know it's all GM canola, Steve.
Most of it's been all tested, mine.
That's right, there's plenty of TT canola all along that road. So most of that could have been photos you've taken of normal canola. You're just spinning a yarn to everybody else. So explain that to everybody else.
Time to come, that'll be proven. But there's been numerous tests, including the department and my own. There's been 2 NASA inspections and testing as well.
So how far is that into your farm, Steve?
It's 0.85 of a K from the boundary into that.
Pretty good condition, to marvel.
And it didn't shed all that distance. Pretty marvellous, isn't it?
Yep.
Beautiful picture, that one.
These are both in Orion, a spelt crop.
That didn't shed either. Beautiful.
This one here, again, in those paddocks on the boundary. This one sits in. These ones where it has shed, and obviously the seeds are pretty obvious. Staying both in the soil, and this one's in a gully. The worry for me, obviously, is this issue. Plants in this gully system, and now with the 33 mils of rain we had back on the 5th. And of course, once you get water moving off contaminated land like that, it's exactly how far is this stuff going to move through the environment. We've openly called for an environmental impact study just to measure exactly how far it will do that, either by wind or whatever the means. And I think we should know, or should have these facts already presented for us before the introduction of GM. And of course, it's clearly going to regrow. And this is the problem is, who is responsible? Now I've just brought up a few questions. It's just a crop for comparison. These are the things that concern me. I really think it's an issue as a farmer. I should have the right to farm my farm as I choose without being impacted on by anyone else.
Question. Are you at the top of the watershed, the middle or the bottom?
I'm pretty close to the top.
Right, thank you.
Yep, we know without doubt that they can't contain or control their own genetically engineered biological seeds. What worries me also as farmers we're losing control of that seed. Obviously, once it's got a patent on it, we no longer own it. And where does that leave us in the future if we, can't own our seed, and if it gets contaminated and so on? Where does it really leave us? Because I really want to keep control of my seed, particularly being organic. We use a lot of the older varieties. We find they do better under our system of agriculture. And if we can't get those varieties or have our own varieties contaminated, it's a pretty big issue. I would like to see legislation put in place actually protecting all the current public seed varieties, both for GM-free status, purity and availability, because I think we need to keep those seeds available, and we should really, companies should be able to buy some of the older seeds, because they're still just as good as milling quality as any of the modern seeds. And I really believe there should be a compensation fund set up, levied against the biotech industry and the companies themselves to compensate farmers like myself, rather than have to go through the trouble of a court case or whatever to get compensation, but also for contractors and also for shires, where they can clean up the roadways and losses or any other liability or any other impacts related to GM contamination. Because at the end of the day, they produce the product. I think this is the most important part of this debate, and it's good we are having this debate now, even though it would have been better a few years ago. All farmers should have the right to choose how we, or if we want to produce a GM-free product. I think it's clear now that the customers are demanding it. There is clearly a market for GM-free food, and I think we should. And we should not have this 0.9% GM contamination level imposed on all of us. That's really what it is, because we haven't got a choice. And that sums it up.
Thanks, Steve. Any questions for Steve? Yes, Frank.
Steve, is there any possibility that there was more than one farmer contaminating your... Like, you can't prove that the canola came from that place, can you? Is there a possibility there will be more than one?
It's a bit of an awkward situation here tonight, but there was only one crop.
No.
And that was definitely GM. Because I mean, trying to prove that in court would be a difficult avenue.
Yeah, well, we'll see.
There's another question down the back, Doug.
Another question. Is your problem the fact that it's GM, or it's just ordinary chemically grown canola?
No.
I mean, you're trying to have an organic farm in an area that probably is standardised as normal farming practice to use chemicals on crops. Now, if your contamination could have been ordinary canola?
No.
I mean, the canola I grow.
No, that NASA has clearly come out in the press release and stated that if it's GM, it is specifically GM. The standards on A6000 specifically say a GM contamination. If it's a conventional crop, it doesn't. And it's been, I've been contaminated with a conventional canola crop before.
But are you using the GM's argument to fight your own organic cause? I mean, all your neighbours probably grow normal crops, and you're trying to grow organic, and you're taking on the GM issue now.
No, the issue is I lost my certification because the crop is GM, and it's GM that's contaminated the property. That's as far as that matter goes. The issue about my choice, whether I want to produce without GM, that is clearly my choice, and that should be under everybody's private property rights as a farmer. We should have that free choice. If we want to produce, whether we're organic, biodynamic, biological, non-GM or even GM, we should have a choice. But it's up to us as farmers to contain that product so it doesn't impact on our neighbours.
Another question down the back.
Two minor questions. The first one, you wouldn't have lost your contract or whatever it was if it wasn't GM, if it was just contaminated by a different, by the ordinary stuff. If it was the fact that it was GM.
Yes, the issue was that it is GM is why, the standard is 0. Yeah, 0 means 0.
And previous question is, how do they determine it was your neighbour that contaminated it? What was the nearest apart from the neighbour who had the GM crop, well, do you know what the nearest one was?
Next nearest.
The next nearest, yeah.
Yes, we got an idea. Yes, we know where that. It was some distance away.
So the next one's quite a distance away.
Okay, a couple more questions and then we'll move on.
Steve, was this one of the trial plots that your neighbour had?
No, it's commercial. This is the first year it's been commercial. Well, I'm sorry, 2010 was the first year they can commercially grow.
Mr. Tang?
Yes. Steve, do you see this 0.9% contamination? What's your big argument against that? It means you can still be contaminated even if you get normal GM into your organic country.
No, this 0.9% is pretty well related to GM, but the issue for me was I had lost it because of the GM. The issue also that's coming out of this, it gets into the non-GM and GM-free argument as well. If you claim something as non-GM, well, isn't it non-GM? You know, we've got to look at the dictionary. It says no. Well, this is quite an issue.
I reckon it is. I reckon
it is quite an issue, and this is why it affects all non-GM farmers, not just organic farmers. As I say, it doesn't matter how you choose. There's a number of different ways we farm sort of under a natural system, but it's the introduction of this technology that seems to be causing a lot of complications.
Thank you.
Question
Yes,
behind.
Mike, I'm just going to give Mike a chance. Can I introduce you? Mike actually is Steve's neighbour and he's come up tonight, and so yeah, we'd like to...
Yeah, what gives the organic farmer the right to dictate what his neighbour grows?
Isn't it already a case that the organic farmer's lost his livelihood?
Well, that's...
So how can that be an argument?
Why has the organic farmer lost his case? Whose fault's that?
I
Whose
won't
fault
really
is
go
that?
He
there.
has to pay royalties on the seeds that
Well, you didn't answer my question. The question was, why did the organic farmer lose his certification?
Because the land was contaminated.
Because
with
NASA
GM.
took it off you.
That's correct. Under
That's
the
right,
standards
end
that
of
says
story.
zero tolerance model, and they comply with the OFA.
And
they
my next
also
question is,
under AQUIS.
why do we got to